A key tip here is never, never, never let any limits that you might have in your mind about the size of your list limit other people. Okay, so bear that in mind as we go through this, because the average person knows about 1,500 people. Now, everybody denies that they know that many, but I'm sorry, the psychology and sociology communities are not wrong about that. Let's learn how to get a lot of those names. If you tell these 5 stories when sitting with a new rep, they will literally run for everything and anything that has a name on it. What's Al going to do? Well, he's going to tell the rep to build a list. Never teach list building and never tell somebody to build a list. Do what Nancy does. Tell the 5 stories. Build the list with them. Again, build the list with them. Never, never, never assign list building. If you do, your tank will be empty. If you do what Nancy does, build the list with them, you'll be bursting with premium fuel. Now, if it's possible, do it at their house because that's where their resources are. The bottom line is, do you want your own domestic organic fuel, or do you want to buy imports that'll cost you 500 times as much? Sponsoring, once you know the skills, and again, we'll show you where to get those for free at the end of this training, but, right, because they're in order, right? Learn how to build a list, and then you learn how to talk to them. But anyway, the real work begins after sponsoring. If you tell these stories, you'll help them identify with you. That's key, not compare, but identify. Help them understand that they recommend things every day of their life, and help them re-feel the joy of recommending. Here's the mega tip. Learn these 5 stories. Great stories make most people think they already do what we do, that they're like you, and if they're like you, guess what? They can do what you can do. So you're really getting a 2-for-1 hit here. Not only are you building a list, but you're building their confidence. One of the key tips in being a great storyteller is to talk in pictures. Once they understand these 5 stories, they will be comfortable with network marketing, and they'll be excited and crank out names literally like a human spreadsheet. So listen, not just to the story, but how we weave the 5 senses in from time to time. Because when you weave the 5 senses into a story, people identify with hearing, touching, feeling, smelling, and so forth, and they think that they're like you. If they think they're like you, they not only trust you, they believe that they can do what you do. Now, we have an entire training called How to Be a Great Storyteller. That's also free. But the key behind being a great storyteller is, as I go through some of these stories, listen for how I occasionally weave in one of the 5 senses. Now, our overall objective with these 5 stories is to build a huge list. Don't forget that, because it might seem like the first 4 stories don't have anything to do with list building, but they have everything to do with building their belief and list building. So the first story, or the objective, is to neutralize Murphy's Law. Let's face it, occasionally things are going to go wrong. So I'm going to say, look, Harry, we'll use Harry as my new rep. Say, Harry, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, actually 5 of them. It'll help you understand networking, what we do, and how we do it. And the first thing I want to tell you about is Company XYZ is a great company. It's not perfect. What really makes the difference between a bad company, a fair company, and a great company? Well, it's simple. Bad companies don't acknowledge mistakes. Fair companies acknowledge them, but they don't do much about it. And great companies, when they make a mistake, they fix it. So I just want to let you know that I haven't actually personally dealt with any mistakes in shipping or anything like that. But if anything happens, don't get upset. Just give me a call, because it's a great company, and they're going to fix it right away. Okay, so what you're doing there is, a lot of times people join network marketing and they've never been in business before, and they don't really understand that, sometimes things don't go perfectly. So you want to reassure them there, neutralize Murphy. So here's the second of the 5 stories, and what we want to do here is let them know that people do network marketing every day. They just don't get paid for it. So it goes something like this. Look at Harry. Most people do network marketing every day. They just don't get paid for it. You're probably wondering, Mark, what do you mean I do network marketing every day? Well, do you have kids? Yeah, I got a couple of kids, Harry says. Well, how did your wife find the pediatrician and the obstetrician and all that? Did she look in the phone book? No, her sister told her about it. Oh, it was a good experience? Yeah. And did she tell anybody about it? Yeah, she did. What about an attorney or an accountant or maybe even a shortcut to work? Ever tell anybody about that? Oh, yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Maybe an auto mechanic or something like that. Has anybody ever come back to you and said, hey, you know what? That shortcut you told me about or that Italian restaurant was fantastic. How does that feel? It feels great, doesn't it? And, of course, Harry's going to agree. Say, look, it's part of the human experience. So for us to recommend things, we love recommending things that we like or enjoy or we think other people will like or enjoy. So, here's the really interesting thing since you did have kids. You remember they're 5 or 6? Well, yeah, I remember that. Well, maybe they're 5 or 6, they come home, they're all covered with dirt, and, got a couple of little boys. Yeah, a couple of little boys that come home, they're dirty, you hug them, you can smell bubble gum all over them. They're all excited, they're squirming all over the place, and they tell you about a new toy, or a new, pizza place, or a new ice cream parlor that opened up, and occasionally you bring them down to it, right? Yeah, well, where'd they get that information? I guess from their friends at school. That's right. And when that triggers a transaction, their friends recommended something, they told you about it, that triggered a transaction. That's network marketing. And Harry, guess who did the same thing when he was 6 years old? Well, I guess I did. That's right, Harry. We've all been doing network marketing every day. Most people don't get paid for it. Now, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news, okay? And if you're like most people, you want the bad news first. The bad news is the doctor, the attorney, the pizza place that you've recommended, the Italian restaurant, they're never going to pay you for your recommendations. On the other hand, that's what we do to get paid. You are going to get paid here. That's the good news. The bottom line is, Harry, is dogs know who to bark at. So we want to make sure that our recommendation is sincere. See, once they believe that they do network marketing, once Harry believes he does network marketing every day, forget about it. So what I did there was recreate the feeling of recommending, and I weaved in a couple of the senses. Now, we have a great skill at theworldslaziestnetworker.com called Be a Great Storyteller. It'll give you a little more detail about that, and you can go over that 1 or 2 times so that once you've told a second story, he knows the company's not perfect, but it will fix things, and he knows now that he's done network marketing every day of his life since he's been 6 years old. So he's starting to come around in his conviction that this was a good decision even more and more. Our overall objective, of course, is to build a huge list. The objective of the third story, now that he understands that he does network marketing every day, and he has since he's been 6 years old, is to help Harry understand how we get paid. So, Harry, I'm going to tell you the third story now. It's pretty simple. It's how we actually get paid. You want to know how we get paid, right? Of course he's going to say yes. Say, well, let's imagine that you and I are in a book club, and we meet every other Tuesday. And so I run into you. Where do you shop, by the way? Okay, you always want to get the name of their store because the more familiar you can make it to them, the higher the believability. In other words, people are more likely to engage in what's familiar than what's unfamiliar. That's really important. So say, where do you shop, Harry? Kroger's. Oh, great. Okay. So I run into you at Kroger's. It's kind of a rainy night. And we're both supposed to bring over the same thing, 2 6-packs of Coke, 2 bags of chips, and 2 containers of dip. And I run into you at the counter and I say, hey, Harry, why don't we drive over in your car? You got a big, nice, big, warm car. We can listen to the tunes on the way over. We got to both come back this way anyway. And would that be okay with you? And you said, yeah. and say, great. And so they ring your stuff through and it's $14, and they ring my stuff through and it's $18. And they say, wait a minute, I got exactly the same thing that he got. Why am I paying 18 and he's only paying 14? Harry, how come you get to pay 4 less? And you pull out your little card and you say, oh, I got one of these little cards that gives me, it's sort of customer loyalty card. You just fill out a little form. So the girl hands me a form. I ask her for one. Fill out the form. She re-rings my groceries, and I save $4. And you just saved your friend $4 and probably $3, $4, $5 every time he shops. That would feel pretty good for you. Yes, Harry? Yeah, that'd feel great. Okay, well, that's part of the human experience. Well, I want you to imagine, as we're standing there in Kroger's in our raincoats and getting ready to go to the book club, I want you to imagine that customer loyalty program was really on steroids. It was like a customer loyalty program that was all pumped up on steroids. So that every time I shopped from that point on, not only did I save $3, $4, $5, but it showed up as a credit on your card. And everybody that I told about it and saved them money, it showed up as a credit on your card. Would you ever stop shopping there? And of course he's going to say no. And what he just did was he committed to staying in the business, if you understand what we're doing here. Oh, basically, Harry, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And if you're like most people, you want the bad news first. Okay? The bad news is Kroger's is never going to do that for you. The good news is company XYZ that we're working here together, that's exactly what we do. All we have here is a customer loyalty program. I'm going to tell people about it. They're going to fill out a little form just like we both did at Kroger's. And guess what? Every time somebody buys, you get paid. Would that be okay with you? Of course, he's going to say okay. So now Harry actually understands that he does network marketing every day and that he's going to get paid for it. It's just a customer loyalty program. And folks, that's all it really is. Now, the objective of the fourth story is to let Harry know it's going to take some time, but there's a payoff and he's going to get some encouragement on the way. So, Harry, I want you to imagine you're sitting in your office at work, and it's a warm day outside, but the air conditioning's on, and you got a nice iced coffee, and you're in your comfortable leather chair there. You see I'm weaving in the senses, and the boss comes in, and he says, Harry, I got some good news, and I got some bad news. The bad news is we've got to lay off 10 people, and you're one of the ones that has to go. The good news is you can leave now. Harry, how do you think you'd feel? You got a couple of kids at home, the wife. How do you think you'd feel about that? Pretty lousy? Pretty bad? Yeah. And so, you tell the boss, you say, listen, is there anything I can do? I mean, you don't really want to go get another job. You don't want to go home and tell your wife that you lost your job. She's going to worry. The kids are going to worry. Just say, is there anything that you can do? And the boss is sort of heading towards the door. He stops, he hesitates for a second, and then shakes his head sort of no as he's looking away. And then he reaches for the doorknob, then he turns back around and he says, well, there is this one thing that you can do, okay? And that is if you would put in 1 hour extra every day. But you have to do it every single day. You can't miss a day. If you put in an extra hour every day, I'll let you keep your job. Now, there's not going to be any more money. You're going to be working at the same pay. So I know you're used to getting home at 5:30, and you guys usually eat dinner around as soon as you get home, right? Yeah. Well, you're going to have to, instead of leaving here at 5, you're going to have to leave at 6. Kids' ball games, holidays, whatever, you've got to give me 1 hour, 1 solid hour every day of on the phone. If you'll do that, you can keep your job. What would you do, Harry? I mean, really, what would you do? Would you, keep your job and maybe look for another one? Would you say, no, go ahead and fire me? Hey, you'd probably keep your job. So then the boss starts heading for the door. He reaches for the knob. He said, oh, I meant to tell you, if you don't miss one day, okay, if you don't miss a single day, you can retire at the end of the year on full pay. It'll actually build an ongoing bonus for you that will pay you the same pay year in and year out from that point on. Now, Harry, how would you feel about that extra hour? Feel pretty good, right? Well, Harry, like your boss, I got some good news and bad news. The bad news is the job you're on, that's never going to happen. They're not going to let you put in an extra hour a day for a year and then pay you full pay for the rest of your life. The good news is that's exactly what can happen here. The average person that'll put in an hour a day will double their income and have that ongoing income. Now, Harry, when you get home at night and after you have dinner, you're going to put in that hour. If you put in that hour a night every day for a year and work with me, I'll tell you what, we'll double your income. So what would you tell your friends on that job if they said 4 months in, hey, I got tickets to a concert? Well, you'd probably tell them no, right? And what about 9 months in? And said, hey, I got tickets to opening day, but you'll have to leave work an hour early. What would you tell them, Harry? Okay? And what if 11 and a half months in, your wife said, honey, I really miss you. I can't stand this anymore. You got to start coming home. What would you tell them? Well, in all cases, what we hear from new distributors is they all say the same thing. I'd say, no, I just have to put in this hour. It'll be up in a year. That's it. So that's what I tell Harry. And then I say, and Harry, I got some more good news for you. Unlike that fictitious situation at the company, as you put in an hour a day, we're going to send you encouragement checks month after month after month until our income is doubled, and then the checks will just continue. So now Harry understands it's going to take some time. Let's just pause here for a second, cover a key point. Remember our two friends, Al and Nancy? Nancy's going to use all 5 stories every single time. She'll improve the storytelling skill by going to that skill, and she'll never be out of names. Al, he's going to run out of names, and he'll be whining, I just can't find the right people. So I'm really proud of you for getting to this point. Folks, this skill is a kick-ass skill. It'll make you a ton of money. Learn it. Before we get to the 5th story to get the fuel, let's just review here. The 5th story we tell taps the fuel. We tell the first 4 stories so new people aren't looking for perfection, realize they've been doing network marketing since they've been 6, they know how they get paid, and that it's going to take some time. These 4 stories are the foundation of the 5th story, which is why Al doesn't want to learn them and tell them. Nancy does, because she now has reps who are excited to build the list because they understand the business. Well, you've laid a beautiful foundation with the first 4 stories. The 5th story objective is build the list now. Remember, tax benefit. Don't want your friends to be mad. And make sure you tell this story in 2 parts because you're going to engage Harry here actually in the story. So, Harry, I want you to imagine we're both in our 80s and we meet every Tuesday morning at Starbucks and we talk about baseball and the Red Sox and the Yankees and we talk about the government and how our kids are doing. Basically, we kind of get together and straighten the whole world out, right? You know, sort of old octogenarians. And this particular day you walk in, it's a nice sunny day and a little warm outside, and you come in, it's nice and air conditioned in there, and I got your coffee waiting for you. And I say, Harry, wasn't it great that our raise for Social Security came early? And the extra $350 a month wasn't supposed to come until November, but here it is, July, and it showed up early. Isn't that great? And let's imagine, Harry, that you didn't know anything about Social Security. And you said to me, what do you mean Social Security? Well, we're both 85, Harry. Remember when we were 65, we could fill out that little form, okay, that would trigger our Social Security check around $500, $600, $700 a month, month in and month out. You didn't fill out that form? No, I don't know anything about it. Well, Harry, let me ask you this. How would you feel, let's say it's $700, which is $8,400 a year, okay, which is $168,000. How would you feel, Harry, if you found out that you just missed out on $168,000? How would that make you feel? Pretty bad, right? And of course, Harry's going to say, I'd feel pretty bad about it. Well, what if I told you, Harry, at that point, that I knew you never filled out the form and I made a decision not to tell you about it? How would you feel about me? How long would we be friends after that? Well, of course, Harry's going to tell you he wouldn't like it very much. We're not going to be friends anymore, and so on and so forth. And that's a crucial part there. You need to tell this in two parts. The first part is getting him to imagine that he didn't know anything about it and he lost $700-800 a month or $168,000 over 20 years. And then that you knew about it, but you made a conscious decision not to tell him. How long would we be friends? Get him to answer those two, because once he does, he's going to build the list. So when you filled out that little form, Harry, online and enrolled in this network marketing company, you just qualified for over 150 tax deductions, and that's going to bring to you every single month somewhere between $400 and $800 a month. Do you see what I'm saying? So if we don't tell people about it that you know, it's going to cost them on average around $500 to $600 a month, okay, which is $6,000 to $7,000 a year. In other words, it's going to cost them $140,000 a year. It's really the same conversation, not telling people about something they're entitled to. Now, you don't want anybody to get mad at you. Isn't it better to say, hey, listen, I found out how to get $600-700 a month paid to you directly every month from your tax bill? Wouldn't it be better to have them turn it down than not tell them? You don't want your friends mad at you, do you, Harry? So what would be easier for you? Not tell them about this and hope that they never find out that you saved $170,000-180,000 that went right in your pocket? Or would it just be easier for us to write everybody down who you know, give them a call, and let them know that they're entitled to another $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year that they've been formerly paying in taxes? So why don't you grab your address book so nobody will get mad at you? And folks, they scamper for it. It's really that simple. Build a list. Now, the minimum I've ever done is 112. We've done up to, my wife is fantastic at this. She tells the stories great. Make sure you get to how to be a great storyteller, because I really go a little bit slower and give you a couple more tips in how we get paid, and most people do network marketing every day. But fundamentally, what's really happened in the last 2 to 3 years, because I've done this with 3 or 4 people, you need to know this. The average person on their cell phone, their smartphone, has 303 names according to AT&T. You need to get every one of them out of that. You need to get every one of them and have them write them down. One of the really cool things is say, listen, let's not worry about whether they'll be good or bad at the business. Maybe we'll call them all, maybe we won't. Let's just start them out and start with the family tree and then second cousins and so forth and branch out from there. But if you tell these 5 stories, you can see the power of this thing when you say, what would be easier for you? To not tell your friends about it and hope that they don't find, or to tell them about it and let them make their own decision? And of course, he's going to go for option 2, in which case, guess what? You got a list. And you know what you are? You're a network marketer, because you're going to sponsor people with Harry. And what are you going to do with Harry? You're going to sit down with Harry and their new person, and you're going to build a list with them. You're going to show Harry how to build lists with people, not assign it. Let's review, okay? What you help the new rep learn is pretty cool, that she or he does network marketing every day. They understand how they get paid. The new rep knows that there's going to be some distractions, but she has to put in an hour a day. Her friends are going to be mad if she doesn't let them know about this, which is really cool. What's Al do? Al does what Al always does. He tells the rep to build a list. Nancy never teaches list building or tells them to build it. Instead, she builds the list with them. She's always got premium fuel.